Chapter 16 Fitzsimmons. Your crystal nucleation process is just a theory. There is still a long way to go before the practical stage. I know, but I'm sure, this must be put into use faster than your delivery mechanism. And nonsense. My delivery mechanism has entered the later stage of testing, and it will be done soon. Yes, it has been a week since you said this last time. In the hallway where people come and go, a thin boy with short curly hair is arguing fiercely with a brown-haired girl. As for the content of the argument, Leon didn't understand at all. Judging from the surrounding reactions, the argument between the two seems to be the daily routine here. This did not hinder Leon. When seeing these two familiar faces with a little immature, the bottom of his eyes showed a slight nostalgia, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but upward slightly. Leo Fitz. And also Gemma Simmons. Sometimes fate is really amazing. Visiting the Ministry of Science and Technology was just an impromptu thought by Leon. However, he did not expect to meet S.H.I.E.L.D's strongest technology duo Fitzsimmons so soon. It seems that at this time, the two who are studying at Shield Academy have already become good friends. Looking at the two people who are even arguing very interesting, he suddenly thought, why not go up and make a move, Roar just do it when he thinks. Leon didn't think too much, and walked to the two of them with a slight adjustment. Do you really understand physics? Haven't you heard Archimedes' law? I just want you to pay more attention. Don't let these useless things occupy our laboratory. Just as the two were arguing, an abrupt voice came in. Hey. Guys, are you all right? The interruption of outsiders caused Leo Fitz and Gemma Simmons to recover from the academic discussion. The two of them looked at the person who disturbed them, a man who obviously did not belong to the Ministry of Science and Technology. Seeing the dubious eyes of the two, Leon immediately showed a kind smile. Hi. My name is Leon Phil Coulson, from the Special Operations Department. Although somewhat inexplicable, the two also greeted very politely. Roar, hello, this is Leo Fitz. Oh, hello, my name is Gemma Simmons. Is there anything wrong with you? Compared to Fitz's shy and introverted, Simmons is more cheerful. When the two were together, it was obviously Simmons who had the right to speak. I'm sorry to disturb you, I just saw you arguing as if you were about to fight, so. Leon explained his intention. Hearing Leon's words, the two first glanced at each other, and then at the same time both laughed. It was Leon's turn to feel confused. Ha ha ha, I'm really sorry, we are not laughing at you, but we think you are so funny. Simmons covered his mouth, chuckled lightly, and waved his hand to explain. Interesting. Leon looked dazed. Yes, you may not know. We were not arguing just now, it was just our normal state when we were discussing various studies. Even Fitz, who was a little dumb, smiled, spreading his hands in a helpless expression, although, it looks like a fight. Everyone in the entire college, both teachers and students, know that we are both, this There are some special ways of communication, so no one like you, thinks we are going to fight and come up to stop. That's why we laugh. The two of you will explain things clearly in a short time. Oh, I see. Leon didn't feel embarrassed for showing his wrong feelings, but just shrugged and laughed at himself. It seems that I have to study a little bit to keep up with the way your geniuses think. Maybe it was Leon's attempt to stop the two people from quarreling and got the goodwill of the two, or Leon's smile made the two people feel that this is a very good person to get along with. Fitz, who has never liked making jokes in front of strangers, immediately followed up, oh, maybe you will never be able to keep up. Ha ha ha. This somewhat cold joke made Leon laugh from the bottom of his heart. That's right, after a short conversation, he was sure that the two people standing in front of his eyes were the smartest scientific duo of S.H.I.E.L.D. Being able to have in-depth contact with these characters who once only existed on the screen is a completely different feeling for a visitor from Leon. This made him feel happy all at once. By the way, Leon, you just said that you belong to the Special Operations Department, so are you already a field agent now? Yes. Then you came to the Ministry of Science and Technology today, is there any task? Simmons asked. I don't want to hide it from you, today is the second day I joined the bureau. What? Real or fake? Obviously, Leon's words surprised both of them very much. Yes, I came to Trident headquarters today, mainly to submit yesterday's mission report, and to visit the headquarters by the way to get familiar with the environment. Yesterday's mission report. Fitz captured the key words very keenly, and then asked curiously, in other words, did you participate in a field mission the first day you joined? Yeah. Leon imitated Fitz's spreading hands just now, with a helpless expression, no way, lucky guy, it's me. Seeing Leon's cocky fart, Fitz and Simmons couldn't help but laugh again. Ha 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 ha. The smile made the distance between each other, unconsciously, a lot closer. At this moment, Fitz patted his head and suddenly proposed, by the way, didn't you say that this is your first trip to Trident? It just so happens that we won't have class afterwards, or the two of us will act as your guides. Let's take you around the college. Oh. This is a good idea. I agree. Simmons on the side also echoed with a smile. Faced with the enthusiasm of the two, Leon was not polite. Then, I will trouble you. Then, let's take you to see our laboratory first. After speaking, the science duo took a cheerful step and took Leon, the guest, to start a tour of the academy. Many students were also very surprised to see Fitz and Simmons, who have always been inseparable, taking the outsider from Leon around. Even the head of the academy, Weaver Agent, seeing this new and rare scene, couldn't help but mutter, who is this young man? Chapter 17, How the Confidant Uncle Made. Advertise here. Rumble. Under the night, the sound of the motorcycle speeding is particularly harsh. Accompanied by the restless sound of the engine, it stopped abruptly. Leon finally ended his long journey of several hours, from Washington to New York, and back to his apartment downstairs. Pushed his silver Yamaha FZ6N into the garage, threw it away, and hung the car key precisely on the hook on the wall. The shoes made a creaking sound as they stepped on the wooden stairs. I heard the sound of neighbors enjoying a delicious dinner. However, these murmurs did not interrupt Leon's thoughts. This trip to the Trident headquarters, his harvest can be described as very great. Not only did he meet Gowleng Oni San Maria Hill, and after molesting him, he also got acquainted with the environment of Trident headquarters. Moreover, while wandering around, he accidentally ran into S.H.I.E.L.D's scientific duo Fitz Simmons. For Leon, this day is undoubtedly a day worth celebrating. Just as he was thinking so, he suddenly frowned and stopped. Looking up, he was already standing in front of his apartment without knowing it. However, the faint heartbeat constantly coming from the apartment, as well as the light from the crack of the door, are telling the fact that there is someone in the apartment. At this moment, Leon's head was spinning frantically, trying to find out the identity of the person from the various cobweb trails. Soon, after excluding all kinds of impossibility, he came to the most probable conclusion, people of Hydra. When he thought of this, he subconsciously touched his waist, but felt empty. At this time, he realized that he didn't seem to be carrying a gun. Damn! Whispered, Leon immediately gave up the idea of running to the garage and grabbing firearms. He slowly squatted down and took out a handful of flying darts from the carpet in front of the apartment. As a new agent, 1 or 2 plans B must be prepared. Standing in front of the door with a serious face, Leon firmly grasped the flying darts with his right hand, but slowly twisted the doorknob with his left hand, trying not to make a sound and alarm the enemy inside. As he expected, the originally locked door had already been opened. With a light push, he immediately saw the enemy standing in the living room. At the same time, the other party also saw Leon, who was sneaking in with his ass pouted. With the help of lights, both of them can see each other's appearance clearly. Leon. Uncle Phil. 5 minutes later. Ha ha ha. Sitting on the dining room seat, Leon was biting on the pizza while looking at Phil Coulson, who was laughing. His face was helpless. Okay, you have laughed for a few minutes, the pizza is almost cold. After speaking, he directly picked up a piece of pizza and stuffed it into Phil Coulson's mouth. Phil Coulson, who was stuffed with pizza by his nephew, was not angry, but was very happy to take the pizza and bite. Unexpectedly, your vigilance is so high, it is really a wise choice to transfer you into the game. Phil Coulson sighed while eating pizza. You are so embarrassed to say. Leon, with an angry expression on his face, seized the opportunity and just spit out, whoever told you to come to my house without contacting me in advance? I almost threw the flying darts out of my hand. After a few words from Phil Coulson, Leon remembered to ask him what he was coming from. By the way, why didn't you even give a notice, so you came to see me and brought my favorite bacon pizza? Did something happen? It's not to blame Leon for being suspicious, but Phil Coulson suddenly appeared in his home, something unusual. However, it turns out that he thinks too much. I saw Phil Coulson look at Leon with a puzzled look, and then smiled. What's the matter? I'm coming to see my nephew, do I need approval? That's true. Leon was speechless. It's just that when I passed by the pizzeria, I suddenly remembered that you just joined SHIELD. I haven't had time to celebrate with you. So I brought your favorite bacon pizza to a pizza party with you. Besides, I promised your parents to take good care of you. In the last sentence, there was a strong firmness. When talking about Leon's parents, Phil Coulson's face obviously showed sadness inadvertently. Leon, who was sitting on the side, also patted Phil Coulson's hand lightly at the right time, and comforted, I see, my dear uncle. Before crossing over, Leon's parents lost their precious lives in a major car accident. So young Leon became an orphan. Fortunately, at that time, he was accompanied by his uncle, Phil Coulson, so that he did not become a child with a personality defect. After Liang replaced Leon, the first person to contact was Phil Coulson. After 3 years of getting along, he has long regarded Phil Coulson as the only family member he can rely on in the world. Therefore, seeing Phil Coulson who cherished the past and fell into grief, Leon felt the same way. Under Leon's reassurance, Phil Coulson quickly recovered and became a close uncle with a thunderous momentum. Is the job okay? How's your relationship with your colleagues? All kinds of trivial questions, like a cascade of guns, sprayed out of his mouth, making Leon unable to resist. Leon was stunned. He would like to ask Phil Coulson, old uncle, have you been to heavenly Shuland? Change your face as soon as it comes. There is no way. He regards Phil Coulson as his only family. Why not Phil Coulson? Therefore, even if he knew that he shouldn't ask so much, the deep sense of responsibility drove Phil Coulson from a good old man to a nagging old woman. However, the feeling that someone cares is still very good. At least, for the aliens from Leon who feel that he does not belong to this world at this moment, Phil Coulson's care makes him feel a sense of belonging even more deeply. However, what Leon never expected was that in addition to caring about his daily life, Phil Coulson also revealed some work information to him between the lines. For example, "You have to work hard, director Nick Fury has high expectations of you. I recently followed the Barton agent to study hard, learn more Russian, and learn one more language. It will be very useful for your future tasks. The situation is really not stable recently. In Brazil, the military sent a helicopter squadron to hunt down a doctor. In the Middle East, the warlords have been fighting fiercely recently. There are several agents lurking there. Were killed in the chaos of the war." This information allows Leon to better understand the changes in current times and the movements of certain people. For example, a doctor who was run away by the military. Poor Comrade Banner. Chapter 18 Osborn's Invitation. Advertise here. Soon after joining S.H.I.E.L.D., the rookie Leon naturally does not have the power to act alone like Hawkeye. However, even so, his life was extremely fulfilling. I don't know if it was Fury's arrangement, in order to familiarize him with the special professional job of agent as soon as possible. In the next 2 months, Leon basically did not stop for a moment, and followed Hawkeye all day to fly around the world, performing various tasks. Infiltrating, collecting intelligence, seizing documents, killing terrorists, etc. all belong to the scope of the agent's work. He did it all. All kinds of tasks brought him not only the understanding of agent work and task experience, but also the considerable experience points that made him smile. In 2 months, Leon gained up to 12,000 points of experience by completing several tasks issued by the system. And without even thinking about it, he directly used his 10,000 experience to learn another extraordinary skill from Hawkeye Clint Barton, Spell Shot. In this way, the skills on his body and the combat power brought to him are enough to make him the second Hawkeye. However, the increase in combat power did not cover up the burden and pressure brought to him due to continuous tasks. Especially when he came back from the warlords' melee in the Middle East, that heavy feeling has always been with him, and it can't be dissipated for a long time. The faces crying in the flames of war caused him to ask himself, does everything he has done help the world in any way? He does not know. He only knew that he needed a little time to stop and adjust his mentality. No, Leon, who had just returned from the other end of the world after completing his mission, was sitting in the driver's seat while driving the Quinjet, and while sitting in the fighter plane, wiping all kinds of arrows with Hawkeye, started a grievance. Boss, do we have holidays for our job? Hearing Leon's 13th question, Clint Barton did not look up. While continuing his work, he replied with the same answer for the 13th time, yes, and no. Leon rolled his eyes and said helplessly, is there or not? Your answer is equivalent to not answering. Not paying attention to Leon's little emotions, Clint Barton continued to explain to him, you also know that this is not our final decision, but a matter for the superiors to weigh. As long as they say that we can take a vacation, then we have a vacation. However, once they say that the world still needs us, the country pays for it. If we need us, we must not leave for half a step. The world needs us, we have to be free. This is the job's responsibility. Bala bala. The two were born to death and spent 2 months together. Leon also learned a lot about Clint Barton. He likes black, he likes to drink tequila, he likes to take pictures of his family from his pocket and stare at him before going to bed. How did you ask Leon to know when the two of them were performing lurking missions in the wild? They had never known how many times they slept together. Even the family members who are deeply hidden in their hearts and have never mentioned to outsiders, Clint Barton also revealed some information to Leon. One can imagine how close the relationship between Leon and him is. After getting along, Leon accidentally discovered that this buddy who talked a little was a good friend with his Uncle Phil, and it was not unreasonable. Unlike Phil Coulson's idealization and lofty belief in his heart, everything Clint Barton does is driven by a strong sense of responsibility. Whether it is for the country or his family, he is willing to give everything for them. This may be another important reason why Fury and Phil Coulson placed Leon under him. For long-distance flight, only chat can make time pass faster. After setting Quinjet into autopilot mode, Leon also got up from the driver's seat, stretched his waist, and came to Clint Barton, who was concentrating on wiping the arrow. By the way, there is one thing I want to tell you. Say. 2 days ago, I suddenly received a call. Guess who called it? Leon did not immediately say the answer, but closed it. Give you a hint, both you and I know. Before the mystical Leon finished the prompt, Clint Barton interrupted him directly. It's Norman Osborn. The correct answer caused Leon to be taken aback for a moment, and then asked with a dazed expression, how do you know it is him? Immediately afterwards, he suddenly hugged himself with both hands and looked at Hawkeye in horror. Could it be that you eavesdropped on my phone? Clint Barton smiled, ignored Leon's performance, and continued in a calm tone, not only that, I also know that he called you to invite you to his house. To attend his birthday party. Leon frowned, feeling that things were not that simple. However, Clint Barton's next answer eased his frowning brows a lot. He also called and invited me, but I refused. In other words, this is just a small reward for repaying us for saving his life last time. It should be. Clint Barton nodded, agreeing. But I remember, I didn't tell him. What are our names? How did he know that the person who saved him was the two of us? Leon raised his doubts again. Don't forget, he is the president of the Osborn Group. A very meaningful sentence directly made Leon suddenly realize. Also, as the leader of the Osborn Group, Norman Osborn's intelligence sources are spread all over the world and have contacts with the military and ZF. It is not too simple to check one or two people. At this moment, Leon seemed to suddenly remember something, and looked at Clint Barton suspiciously. Oh, no. Why did you refuse? This is just a very good opportunity to relax. I have something to do. Besides, I am not at all interested in this kind of capitalist pretentious party. Clint Barton's tone seemed to have a hint of disdain. However, this answer made Leon even more curious. He continued to ask, what can you do, or, what task did Director Nick Fury give you privately? Seeing the inquiries in Leon's eyes, Clint Barton suddenly appeared unnatural on his face, and put down the arrow in the wipe. No, mainly. Laura is about to give birth, so I want to take a leave of absence. Go back and stay with her for a while. Really, Lola is about to give birth? The unexpected answer made Leon jump with excitement. Only he himself knew that the news, like a flawless light, shot directly on his heart that was covered with a layer of slaughter, crying, and death. Some negative energy disappeared instantly. Is it a boy or a girl? What's his name? Can I take a look at his picture? Then Leon asked hurriedly. It's a boy, his name is Callum. In the icy fighter plane, two elite agents who had just finished their missions, just like that, They talked about the child. Chapter 19 Missions and Parties Recommendation Tickets Required. Advertise here. With the landing of Quinjet, Leon, and Clint Barton, a duo team, once again returned to the hub. Greetings to Laura for me. I will. After saying goodbye to Clint Barton in the tactical hall, Leon just wanted to take the elevator to the intelligence department and hand in the report of the mission. Who knows, as soon as he turned around, he saw Phil Coulson walking in his direction. Judging from his straight path, Leon was pretty sure that he had come to find himself. Really? Leon, come with me. Phil Coulson, who passed by Leon, did not stop, but continued to walk somewhere. Leon followed in confusion. What kind of plane, so mysterious? Leon was muttering in his heart while following his uncle to an unmanned conference room in SHIELD. After the two entered, Phil Coulson closed the door easily. Seeing Phil Coulson's behavior, Leon's expression suddenly became serious. Did something happen? Phil Coulson noticed his face, immediately smiled, and waved his hand. Don't be so nervous, just have a small task, I want to tell you about it. Well, you said. Leon's expression slowed down a little, and then he asked. Did you receive a party invitation from Norman Osborn? In S.H.I.E.L.D. for 2 months, the more Leon learned about this intelligence organization, the more he lamented the organization's hugeness and unfathomableness. What he saw may be just the tip of the iceberg of this mysterious and huge organization. Especially the director of Fury, he gradually changed the first impression he got from the movie in his previous life. This one-eyed preserved egg is definitely not as soy sauce as in the movie. His intelligence ability alone is enough to make him the person on Earth who knows the most secrets, no one. Therefore, Leon was not surprised when he heard Phil Coulson talk about the party invitation, but just nodded. That's it, remember your first mission? Definitely. Based on our previous investigation and the mission report you submitted at the time, we are convinced that this hijacking incident is not simple. Leon looked at Phil Coulson with interest. How do you say? Although there were many doubts at the time, the terrorists were wiped out due to too little intelligence. Therefore, Leon's thoughts that he wanted to know more about, finally came to nothing. After listening to Phil Coulson talk about it, Leon also recalled everything back then. According to our investigation, what these terrorists want is a research project being developed by the Osborn Group, called Interethnic Genetics. Only 2 people have all the research materials for this project. One of them is Dr. Curtis Connors, who is the head of research and development. Since this person happened to go to Zurich to attend a medical conference at the time of the hijacking incident, he escaped this attack. The one remaining person is Osborn's group president, Norman Osborn. Therefore, we have reason to believe that someone behind these terrorists must be doing a ghost. After listening to Phil Coulson's explanation, Leon probably understood the situation, touched his smooth chin, and muttered, well, then you want me to go to the party and gather information to see if you can find the man behind this time. Yes. Take this opportunity to get in touch with Osborn and see if he knows who wants this research. After speaking, Phil Coulson patted Leon on the shoulder and smiled, this one the matter is left to you. Okay, I will pay attention and try not to play so hilariously. A few days later, Leon wore a decent suit, combed his somewhat messy brown hair, combed a greasy head, and drove the black Chevrolet Suburban with SHIELD. He drove all the way to Long Island District in New York. As one of the affluent areas of New York, Long Island has a beautiful environment and pleasant climate, and is considered one of the most livable areas in the world. Therefore, many wealthy people like to buy real estate here. The large mansion of the Osborne family is also located here. Driving to the outside of a huge manor in Suffolk County, Long Island, Leon took out the invitation letter, and soon passed the security check outside and entered the manor. Driving through a straight avenue, Leon finally came outside the Osborne family mansion. Parking lot. After the car was turned off, Leon ignored the countless high-level sports cars and high-end cars parked around him, adjusted his tie, and looked at the large mansion close at hand. The style of a typical capitalist, but I like it. Muttered in a low voice, Leon immediately took a step towards the mansion. When he came to the gate, a middle-aged man who seemed to know he was a housekeeper was sharp-eyed. Before Leon could get to the stairs, he left the guests who were recruiting roar and greeted him. "Oh, Mr. Phil Coulson, it's a great honor for you to come, please come in." "Oh, thanks." After politely returning with a smile, Leon stepped into the large villa of the Osborne family. From the outside, this is a typical French retro-style villa. Fresh and beautiful, there is a sense of order, the atmosphere is elegant and romantic. The decoration style inside is closer to the European style. Gorgeous decoration, strong colors, and exquisite shapes make the whole space a graceful and luxurious effect. The hall was already crowded with people from all walks of life. Wealthy businessmen, Wall Street elites, and ZF officials can all be found here. Among these people, Leon, who has the least bank deposits, is perfectly integrated into these people. Perhaps it was the change of travel, or the benefits that the liking system brought to him, which made Leon, a young man who didn't like to socialize in his previous life, turned into an active player in social activities. After arriving at the bar and taking a glass of martini, Leon admired the structure of the entire house while walking through the large hall to the second floor. According to his observation, the second floor is the best place to observe the entire space. He took a sip of the wine in the glass, and the slight spiciness immediately occupied his taste buds. However, the mellow taste after the spicy taste is endless. While Leon was enjoying his free time silently, suddenly, his ears moved slightly and he heard a faint footstep. A keen perception told him that there seemed to be someone approaching him behind him. From the strength of the steps, the amplitude of the steps, and the frequency of Roar's inhalation, I guess that this is a boy between a child and a teenager. Before Leon could turn around, from behind him, there was an immature young voice. "Are you the one who saved my father?" Chapter 20 A Good Friends Who Loved and Killed Each Other. Advertise here. The party has not started yet. Norman Osborne, the protagonist tonight, has not yet appeared. However, Leon met another owner of this large mansion. Turning around, standing in front of him was a blonde teenager who came to his waist and combed his short hair. From the name Roar just now, and the custom-made small suit he was wearing, Leon quickly guessed the identity of the blonde boy in front of him, Harry Osborne. The future heir of the Osborne Group, the only son of Norman Osborne. These heavy names may still be an unbearable weight for a 10-year-old boy. Judging from the youth's efforts to pretend to look like a small adult, we can know that the various sights he receives in daily life have allowed him to understand his identity and status early. However, this look is a bit cute in Leon's eyes. After squatting and turning his eyes parallel to the opponent, Leon looked into the opponent's eyes and asked with interest, "You are Mr. Osborne's son, little Harry, right?" However, the boy's answer was somewhat arrogant. "You haven't answered my question yet." Leon has his own set of methods to deal with the spare child who has not received much care from his father since he was a child. He first stretched out his hand and patted the other person on the head like a joke, then imitated the other person's just now, and said, "You haven't answered my question yet." Little guy. Harry Osborn seemed to be shocked by Leon's bold move. His tight little face suddenly became a little uneasy. He vaguely felt that the young man in front of him was not like those with a false smile on his face and his mouth full of flattery, just to make a good impression in front of his father. This made him feel fresh and at a loss. Looking at the hesitation of little Harry, Leon took the initiative to stretch out his right hand and smiled. "My name is Leon Phil Coulson, you can call me Leon, how about you?" Harry Osborn looked at the big hand passed over, then slightly raised his head to look at Leon's eyes. In those azure blue eyes, it seemed that there were no other things other than friendship, which made little Harry stretch out his small hand and shook his big warm hand together. My name is Harry Osborn." After shaking his hand, little Harry seemed to become a lot more introverted, and even his voice was much quieter. "You haven't answered my question." Leon patted his head. "Oh, yes, I am the one who saved your dad." "But how did you know? Did you listen to your dad?" Little Harry was silent for a moment before replying, "Alfred told me." Hearing this somewhat familiar name, Leon frowned and asked tentatively, "Alfred, isn't it your housekeeper?" He knew very well that a certain old man named Alfred was not one of the most popular butlers. Little Harry stared suspiciously and looked at him curiously. How do you know that Alfred is my housekeeper?" This answer made Leon look speechless, and his heart was full of complaints. "Oh my God, these days, how many butlers are called Alfred? A good name, can't you just call it casually when you grab a lot of them? What Charles, John, and the like? Even if it is called J.A.R.V.I.S, it is not impossible." Had it not been for having lived in this world for more than 3 years and had never heard of the Wayne family and Gotham terms, otherwise, Leon thought he had come to the wrong DC set. Adjusting his mentality, Leon looked at Harry Osborn again. "You are looking for me, is there something wrong?" "Well, it's nothing, just want to see what kind of person the person who saved my father is." Leon smiled and spread his hands. "Then how do you feel when you see it now? Do you think I'm great?" After all, even if he matures early, Harry Osborn is just a curious 10-year-old. After hearing about Leon's deeds from the housekeeper, he was driven by curiosity to come and see what the young man with outstanding skills looks like. However, even though the senses are good for Leon who met for the first time, Tsundera's character set still cannot be broken. Little Harry rolled his eyes directly, his mouth was full of disdain. "Cut, it's nothing great. Ha ha ha." Just as Leon was laughing, he shouted with an immature roar, not far from the two of them, "Harry!" The big and the small turned their heads at the same time, looking in the direction roar called. I saw a small, slightly malnourished little boy, walking towards the two of them. "Peter!" Before Leon could react, Harry Osborn's answer next to him caused his pupils to shrink suddenly. "Peter, isn't it the person I think?" Little Peter, who came to the two of them, didn't notice the shock in Leon's eyes. Instead, he patted his friend on the shoulder and cared, "Where have you been? I'm looking for you everywhere." When facing his good friends, Harry Osborn's attitude was obviously much better. "Oh, I just met the man who saved my dad, so I just chatted with him." Hearing his friend's introduction, little Peter looked at Leon in surprise. "Ah, is he the one who saved Uncle Osborn?" "Yeah." Little Harry nodded. Compared to Harry's tsundere introversion, Peter's character is much more lively. He looked up slightly and showed a lovely smile to Leon. "Hello, my name is Peter Parker, and I am a good friend of Harry." "It really is you. The Spider-Man of the future, Peter Parker." The calm lake in Leon's heart felt like a stone was dropped, and waves appeared. He looked up and down at the little Spider-Man in front of him, and then showed a kind smile. "Hello, Peter. My name is Phil Coulson, you can call me Leon." Leon never expected that he just came to Osborn's birthday party to escape the busy agent life, and unexpectedly met the young version of the Little Green Goblin and Little Spider-Man, these good friends who fell in love and killed each other. Sometimes fate is really wonderful. Chapter 21. Advertise here. No matter which world it is in, the generation gap is always a major social issue. Even Leon, who is close to full of charm, can't blend into the wonderful world of little Harry and little Peter, the two Gentii. Therefore, after a few brief conversations with the two, Leon was left behind by the two and returned to the state of having a drink alone. Fortunately, the party started right at the moment. "Gentlemen and ladies, let us applaud the host tonight, Mr. Osborn." Under the introduction of a middle-aged man, Norman Osborn, with an energetic smile, leaned on the handrail of the stairs and slowly walked down from the second floor. Deafening applause began to sound in the wide hall. Many guests have cast their eyes on the owner of the Osborn Group. Envy, admiration, longing. Leon, standing by the bar, saw from these people's eyes everyone's purpose and motivation for coming here. Some people come here to seek cooperation with the Osborn Group, some people come here to please Osborn, others come here by invitation. Leon is the third kind of person. However, he didn't just come over to a party, just drink 2 glasses and leave. You know, he still has a task. Thinking of this, Leon suddenly felt that he couldn't be immersed in such a relaxed party atmosphere. It was time to find a place where no one was, and chat with Norman Osborn privately. He said that, but when he saw the crowd around Norman Osborn, he felt that it was not the time yet. So he shrugged, turned around, sat in front of the bar, and continued to enjoy his third glass of martini. However, before he could find Osborn, Osborn found him first. "Mr. Phil Coulson!" Roars shouted behind him, awakening Leon from the splendor in the glass. Turning around, Leon saw a face that Zizu was holding, and was looking at him with a smile. "Oh, Mr. Osborn, just call me Leon." Norman Osborn was taken aback, and immediately changed his words. "Leon, I am glad you can come. I thought you, a busy man, would not be able to attend because of work." The two shook hands. "You laughed, no matter how busy I am at work, I can't be as busy as you, the group president." Leon smiled and took the wine glass in his hand. "Besides, if you know that there are so many things in your wine cellar, wine, then even if I lose my job, I will definitely come. Ha ha ha, if you like, we can go to the wine cellar to see my collection." Leon raised his eyebrows, and then a charming smile burst out. "It's a pleasure. This way please." The opportunity to talk a few words, I didn't expect it to come so soon. Leaving the luxurious lobby of the villa, away from the turmoil of the party, Leon followed Norman Osborn through a dim corridor, turned left and right, and came to the underground wine cellar at Osborn's house. As soon as he entered the wine cellar, there was a burst of strong aroma of the wine, as if it got into Leon's nose. Although he is not a master of wine tasting. However, judging from the scale and decoration of the wine cellar, every bottle of wine here is enough to intoxicate alcoholics. However, at this time, what Leon cared more about was not the wine in the cellar, but the chance to be alone with Norman Osborn. Leon glanced at the bodyguard guarding not far away, and then said, "I have a question. I want to ask Mr. Osborn for your advice." I wonder if you can tell the truth. Oh, you said? Norman Osborn seemed to have noticed that Leon came to the cellar with him, not for the wine here, but for something he wanted to tell him. Leon took out a bottle of wine from Domaine de la Romani Conti from the wine rack on the side. While admiring the color inside the bottle by the lights of the wine cellar, he whispered, I think you know your identity very well. I'm here this time, in addition to congratulating you on your birthday, I also want to ask you about the details of the last kidnapping incident. Hearing Leon's words, Norman Osborn's eyebrows gradually frowned, and the smile on his face also disappeared. That incident, isn't it over? Yes. It's just that, based on our investigation, it's not as simple as it seems. Putting the wine in his hand back to the wine rack, Leon turned his back to Osborn, and continued, obviously, the other party's goal in this hijacking incident was not money from the beginning, but a scientific research project being developed by the Osborn Group. Interracial inheritance, am I right? As soon as the voice fell, his whole body also turned around. Norman Osborn just looked at Leon's eyes silently, smiling as he always did, as if he had already acquiesced. With eyes facing each other, Leon saw nothing but calmness in the eyes of the opponent. Definitely, what kind of technology your group is researching. This is your freedom and right. We will never interfere. Leon spread his hands and said, pacing to Osborn's side, saying in a low tone, however, I think that besides you, there seem to be people who appreciate the preciousness of this technology. So, I thought, do you know anyone who is like you who is very interested in this technology? Any clues are very helpful to our investigation work. As the kidnapped person, Norman Osborn is more urgent than Leon's organization, trying to find out who is behind the scenes. However, he didn't have a clue. Since the other party wants to help him investigate and provide some help, for him, there is no harm. Sorry, I don't know too much. This project called Interracial Inheritance is a new research project that Dr. Curtis has just proposed. Moreover, the content of the research has never been publicized. The only people who know the research process of the entire project are me and Curtis. Dr. S.I. In my opinion, there is no need for Dr. Curtis to do this. So, I can't figure out who it is that wants this technology without much research results. From the conversation, Leon did not get too many clues from Osborn. In order not to arouse the other person's disgust, he quickly gave up the idea of continuing to ask, so? Well, I will disturb your interest. Nothing, shall we continue to enjoy the party? Leaving the wine cellar, Leon bid farewell to Osborn by urinating. He did not return to the party immediately, but followed the corridor to the garden of the mansion. Roar took a deep breath. Fresh air passed through the nasal cavity and into the lungs. Looking at the stars in the night sky, Leon felt that this temptation was not a success. He did not get any information about the suspect. At this moment, Leon, who was standing on the balcony, holding onto the guardrail, stared quickly, and his gaze shot to somewhere in the garden, that is. Chapter 22, The Trace of Hydra. Advertise here. Under the faint night, he couldn't stop him from seeing everything in the garden. A familiar figure was walking out from the side door of the garden. It was a tall young man in a black suit. Especially that face, that's what made Leon surprised roar. Grant Ward. That's right, he actually saw Grant Ward at Osborn's birthday party. Why is he here? Although the time to join S.H.I.E.L.D. is still short, I don't know many people. Most of them are honest S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, such as Carter, Hill, Fitz, Simmons, etc. However, Leon knew that inside the huge S.H.I.E.L.D, there was hidden hydra that could not be counted. There are not a few in high positions: Alexander Pearce, John Garrett, Jasper Sidwell, Brock Rumlow, Grant Ward. These people alone are enough to allow Hydra to steal immeasurable intelligence and resources from SHIELD. It's just that, as his newcomer, he hasn't had much opportunity to meet these people yet. However, he was very lucky. When passing the hub in a hurry, he met Grant Ward. And that face was just like the Grant Ward he had in mind. That's why, at a quick glance, he recognized Ward. There was no time for Leon to think too long. Seeing that Grant Ward was about to leave the manor, Leon supported his hands, jumped over the guardrail, stepped forward, and followed Grant Ward in the direction where Grant Ward had left. Perhaps because of the cover of the night, or the distance between the two, the distance between them was so far that Grant Ward, who was walking in front, did not notice that there was a person following him behind him. Looking left and right, he hurried to the open parking lot of the manor. Suddenly, he seemed to feel the slightest strangeness behind him, and he turned his head abruptly. However, Leon had already guarded his hand, and the moment he twisted his neck, he hid in the bushes aside. Therefore, Grant Ward did not find him. "Is it my fault?" Grant Ward frowned and muttered to himself as he sat in a black BMW sedan, then started the engine, and the car roared away. "It's really dangerous." Leon, who walked out of the grass, did not rush to follow him, but stood still and watched Ward leave. Don't ask, Grant Ward certainly didn't come to the party after being invited by the host like himself. Then what did he come over? The answer is self-evident. Collect intelligence. Who is collecting intelligence for? That is naturally his adoptive father, Hydra hidden in S.H.I.E.L.D, John Garrett, codenamed Acute Eyes. From this, Leon easily guessed the truth of all this hidden in the dark. As far as he knows, John Garrett is the first experimental product of Hydra's Death Warrior project. Since more than 10 years, the reformed body organs have gradually failed, and he has begun to frantically search for various methods to treat himself all over the world. The kidnapping of Osborne, if Leon had not guessed wrong, should be the ghost of John Garrett behind the scenes. The reason is also very simple: in order to obtain the cross-racial genetic technology that Osborne is studying to save his dying body, and even to perfect Hydra's super fighter plan. During World War II, the appearance of Captain America marked the feasibility of the super soldier program. For so many years, Hydra will certainly not give up this very attractive plan. In Lyon's view, John Garrett, who infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D, should be an heir to or an executor of the Hydra super fighter program. As for the question of why Grant Ward, who is loyal to John Garrett, came to the Osborne mansion, it is also very easy to explain. The purpose is very obvious. After the failure of the last hostage incident, John Garrett did not give up, so he sent Ward, his confidant, to personally go out to collect relevant information. However, what they never expected was that all these were clearly seen by a traverser. There is a fixed number for one drink and one peck. If Leon did not save Osborne during the kidnapping incident, he would not get Osborne's party invitation. If he did not come to the party, he would not see Grant Ward's figure. He would not see Grant Ward. If he did, he wouldn't be able to see the truth behind the whole thing. Perhaps, from the moment Leon joined S.H.I.E.L.D, he was involved with the evil organization Hydra. Leon did not stay in the parking lot for too long. Now that he knows that John Garrett is behind the kidnapping incident, his task of collecting intelligence is, to a certain extent, completed. After all, it is more straightforward to find out the real murderer than the names of a few suspects. Returning to the party scene again, Leon scratched the back of his head, a little distressed. By the way, how do you write this report? Knowing the truth is one thing, and making the truth public is another. After all, apart from Hydra, maybe only one person in the world knows that Hydra is not dead, but has been hidden inside S.H.I.E.L.D., constantly absorbing nutrients, seeking to one day, with a rebirth, once again sound the clarion call to rule the world. Leon felt that even if he knew that Hydra had been rooted in S.H.I.E.L.D. for many years, he couldn't directly tell Phil Coulson or even Fury. The destroyed Hydra has actually been lurking in S.H.I.E.L.D. all the time. Even if you tell Fury now, he might not believe it. Besides, before he didn't have a strong self-protection ability, he felt that he should not attack Hydra in advance. That would only put yourself in a dangerous situation, and startled the snake. Moreover, for Leon, the enemy is in the dark, and he is in a darker place. It is not a good strategy to walk to the bright spot by yourself and expose your whole cards. As long as Hydra is not looking at him, he can hide in the dark, slowly accumulate enough power, and then it will not be too late to report to Fury. Thinking of this, Leon's worry about how to report to Phil Coulson has also been reduced a lot. However, John Garrett's shot was a wake-up call in his heart. Reminded him again that this is a dangerous world. In addition to the evil organization Hydra, which has been eyeing the hegemony of the world and wants to swallow the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. at any time, there are many powerful enemies waiting for him in the not-too-distant future. Chapter 23, Confidential Mission Recommendation Ticket. Advertise here. The breath of spring seemed to fade away under the slight hot wind. The summer of 2007 was earlier than in previous years. New York, Queens. In the apartment, Leon, who had just taken a cold shower, just walked out of the bathroom with a towel on his lower body. He went to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, took out milk, mayonnaise, and other things, and began to tinker with today's breakfast. Zi. While the eggs are on the frying pan, the tempting sound is constantly ringing, and the smell of breakfast is also permeating the entire apartment. Just when Leon put the poached eggs in the frying pan on the plate, a hot blonde woman with only a white shirt all over her body, leaning against the wall somehow, was looking at him with a smile. "It's so fragrant." Leon also smiled back and asked, "Are you awake?" "Yeah." The blonde girl didn't care about the faint curves of her body, how tempting it was. She just came to Leon behind her barefoot, walking briskly, and hugged him. Seeing the two breakfasts neatly arranged on the table, the woman suddenly smiled. "Wow! Are these all for me?" Leon patted the woman's white buttocks with his hand, and then replied, "No, there is mine." The woman didn't care about Leon's actions. Instead, she leaned her whole body on Leon's body, rubbing up and down with the 34D chest, while looking at Leon with a wintry eye, and said, "I think you hello I eat, use your mouth." After speaking, he clicked Leon's lips with his slender fingertips. This little fairy. Even though he had experienced the opponent's skill last night, Leon was still a little bit hot due to the other party's provocation. However, when he picked up the opponent and wanted to have a morning exercise, the mobile phone placed in the living room rang untimely. Bell bell bell. Don't worry about it. Even if the woman hangs on Leon and uses a very seductive voice to discourage him in his ears, it cannot stop Leon's determination to stop all his actions and answer the call. Wait for me. After raising his finger and gesturing to the woman, Leon went to the living room, picked up the phone, and pressed the call button. Hey. Leon, good morning. The familiar voice of Phil Coulson came from the phone. Leon took his cell phone and went to the balcony. Call me so early, what's the matter? My report seems to have been handed in. It's not a report, it's Fury who wants to see you. Hearing Phil Coulson's words, Leon couldn't help but raise his brow. Oh, where Trident? No, no XX, Block XX, Avenue XX. Phil Coulson on the opposite side reported an address, paused, and continued, you only have 10 minutes. I see, I will be there soon. After hanging up the phone, Leon turned around. When she returned to the living room, the woman just wanted to meet him and give him a hug, but Leon, who was agile, jumped away. The woman looked dumbfounded. Leon did not stop, but walked directly into the bedroom and began to change his clothes. As he put on his clothes, he told the woman, Sally, I have something to do. I'm going out to deal with it soon. I can't accompany you. You wait for breakfast and leave by the way to help me shut it down. Just come here. In less than 20 seconds, Leon changed into a white shirt and a pair of washed jeans and walked out of the bedroom. But the woman felt very ridiculous about everything in front of her. Just as she wanted to speak aloud, she was interrupted by a kiss from Leon. A French wet kiss fascinated the woman. That's it, let's contact again another day. After speaking, Leon put on a pair of canvas shoes, took the garage key, and stepped out of the house. The whole process takes less than a minute. And in the whole apartment, there is only a blank blonde woman standing on the carpet in the living room, muttering to herself, but, I don't have your contact information yet. Putting on the sunglasses and stepping on the foot, the sound of the engine suddenly concealed the surrounding noise. Booming. When the handbrake was released, the silver Yamaha FZ6N galloped away like a silver flash. It took a full 8 minutes and 40 seconds before Leon arrived at the address mentioned by Phil Coulson. Looking up at the low building that looked like an office building in front of him, Leon curled his lips and walked in. It's another secret base. When he arrived in the lobby, Leon took out the agent certificate directly, flashed it to the lady at the front desk, and the other party immediately smiled and said, Leon agent, Phil Coulson agent is waiting for you on the 4th floor. Okay. After speaking, Leon hurried to the direction of the elevator. With a ding, the moment the elevator door was opened, Leon saw Phil Coulson standing in front of the elevator, looking at him with a smile. Phil Coulson looked down at his watch, then looked up. The time is just right. Definitely, I am the strongest newcomer to S.H.I.E.L.D. After a little hesitation, Leon followed his uncle and walked somewhere. Director Nick Fury is looking for me. Is there any secret task? Do you want to give it to me? Phil Coulson did not answer, but gave a rather mysterious smile. You'll find out later. Soon, the two came outside an office. Phil Coulson didn't push the door directly, but knocked gently on the door 3 times. He didn't twist the doorknob to signal Leon to enter until a strong bass come in inside. Seeing Phil Coulson who was not moving, Leon was a little confused. Are you not going in? This is your task, not mine. After speaking, Phil Coulson pushed Leon into the room with a light push. This is a small meeting room. And the one-eyed director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury, was sitting at the head of the conference room with his fingers crossed, watching someone coming in quietly with the only eye left. Sit, at the sign of the one-eyed preserved egg, Leon handed his hand away from the chair close to him and sat down. Just as Leon speculated about Fury's purpose in finding him, Fury said again, "How is your Russian?" Leon was shocked, then immediately reacted, "Very good." In Hawkeye, he not only learned 2 extraordinary combat skills, but also learned some other miscellaneous skills. For example, proficient in Russian, anti-tracking technology. Leon's answer caused Fury to nod. At this time, before Leon could ask questions, Fury directly stated the purpose of meeting him this time. "I have a confidential task that I want to entrust to you to complete." Chapter 24: The Red House and Black Widow. Advertise here. Secret mission. Seeing Fury's eyes that contained infinite secrets, Leon suddenly felt an inexplicable feeling. The task this time seems to be not easy. Have you heard the name Red House? The Red House isn't that the intelligence agency that cultivated Black Widow Natasha Romanoff? Leon muttered so much in his heart, and replied, "No. That's a Russian secret intelligence agency that aims to train female spies." Leon listened to the SHIELD director quietly and explained the content of the mission to himself. According to reliable information, the inside of the Red House is on the verge of breaking out, and the factional dispute has reached the most critical moment. In order to ensure that this internal fight will not pose a threat to SHIELD and world peace, I want you to go there. Russia, collect relevant information. Leon noticed the subtext between Fury's words and immediately asked, "Is it just me?" "Yes, you are the only one." Leon was surprised and delighted when he heard Fury's words. On the one hand, it is because this is a single-player secret mission, and it still sneaks into the enemy's hinterland. The risk factor is very high. If you are not careful, you may be killed by the Red House beauty agents. On the other hand, Fury gave him such an important task, which also shows that Fury attaches great importance to him. This task has advantages and disadvantages for Leon. However, he has no room for rejection. After thinking carefully, he raised his head and looked at Fury. "Understand, when will I leave?" Fury hugged his chest and looked at Leon calmly. "This afternoon. Hill will arrange the flight and your new identity for you." "Understood, sir." When Leon finished the task and was about to turn around and leave, he was suddenly stopped by Fury. "By the way, when you arrive in Russia, pay attention to a Russian agent named Black Widow. This is a very dangerous person. Once you meet her, don't hesitation, don't be merciful, just kill her." Hearing this, Leon's body trembled slightly, and his eyebrows frowned slightly. "You mean, do you directly execute the command to kill?" "That's right." Fury's tone was calm, with a hint of cold killing intent. After a long time, Leon replied, "Okay, I understand." With a click, Leon closed the door easily when he left the room. "How about it?" As soon as he came out, Leon saw Phil Coulson greet him and asked with concern. Leon smiled back and explained, "Director Nick Fury asked me to go to Russia, drink vodka with the beauties of Siberia and huddle together to keep warm." "When are we leaving?" "Flight in the afternoon. I want to go back to the Trident headquarters first and get some gear." Leon patted his old uncle on the shoulder, and said with regret, "It's a pity that I can't accompany you for lunch." Seeing the little expression on Leon's face pretending to be sad, Phil Coulson immediately laughed and cursed, "FKU, I'm not a lonely old man, I don't need you to accompany you." After speaking, Phil Coulson seemed to remember something and suddenly reminded, "By the way, the director and I have something to do in New York. There is a Quinjet on the top of the building that is ready to return to the headquarters, so I can take you on the way." Leon didn't expect that there would be a Shun fan to ride, and his face was joyful. That's great. Also, pay attention to safety. Leon looked at the unconscious worry on Phil Coulson's face and showed a gentle smile. I will. After an hour. Fly on Quinjet from New York to Lyon in Washington, D.C., and soon appeared at the S.H.I.E.L.D. Trident headquarters. If a worker wants to do well, he must first sharpen his tools. Now that the task has been accepted, it is very necessary to prepare for all tasks in advance. From Fury's explanation, Leon caught two main points: task content and precautions. For this mission, what he has to do is to sneak into Russia with a new identity and collect relevant information about the Red House. In addition, what he should pay attention to is to pay attention to a Russian female agent named Black Widow. Once encountered, execute the command to kill the opponent and kill the opponent. Fury didn't say when to come back. From another perspective, the subtext is before completing the task, stay in Russia for me. In other words, this is a latent task with an incubation period of unknown length. For this reason, taking some small toys that can help cover his identity and collect information will be of great help for him to complete the task as soon as possible. That's why, as soon as he got off the plane, he ran to the Science and Technology Department of S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy. I saw him come to the outside of a certain laboratory in a familiar way, knocked on the ceiling glass at the door, and beckoned to someone inside who was doing an experiment. Hearing the sound, the thin boy who turned around also smiled after seeing Leon. That immature smiling face is obviously a famous person in S.H.I.E.L.D. Leo Fitz. Walking out of the laboratory, Leo Fitz asked unexpectedly, "Hey, Leon, why are you here?" However, Leon looked at him with a serious face and said, "Fitz, I need your help." 10 minutes later. In the laboratory, an open suitcase is placed on Leo Fitz's desk. And he introduced Leon one by one, the little cuties in the suitcase. This is a miniature bug. After my modification, the monitoring range can be doubled. This is a miniature tracker. It is small in size and difficult to be found. It can be placed anywhere. This is. After Leo Fitz's tireless introduction, Leon finally figured out the role of all the tools in the suitcase. By the way, what you asked me to make before, I just finished it 2 days ago. Then, Fitz picked up another suitcase from the ground and put it on the table. He patted the suitcase with his hand, and Fitz showed a shy smile. I think you will be able to use it for this mission. Taking the 2 suitcases from Fitz, Leon patted each other on the shoulder and smiled. Fitz, thank you. With these tools you provided, I think my mission this time should be completed soon. Scratching the back of his head, Leo Fitz looked embarrassed. Providing equipment for you field agents is originally our responsibility, no thanks. Besides, we are friends. Yeah. Leon nodded heavily. When I come back, call Simmons, let's go to the bar last time and have a drink. Okay, I will tell Simmons. After bidding farewell to Leo Fitz, Leon returned to headquarters again, and received his new ID from Hill, who was still cold, and a ticket from Washington Dulles International Airport to Paris, France. Then, under Hill's gaze, he boarded a Quinjet ready to set off. Through the window of the fighter plane, Leon saw the Trident headquarters gradually disappearing. The corner of his mouth rose slightly, and he muttered in his heart, Russia, here I am. Chapter 25, The Infighting in the Organization Caused by One Person. Attention, all passengers, we are about to arrive at Domodedovo International Airport in Moscow. Please fasten your seat belts and the plane will land in 3 minutes. In the cabin, the sweet voice of the stewardess rang. But Leon, who had been sitting on his seat with his eyes closed, opened his eyes suddenly. Finally reached. This long-distance flight from Washington to Paris, and then from Paris to Moscow, Leon took about 13 hours. When Leon stood on Russian soil, he had already grown from a Native American, Leon Phil Coulson, and turned into a Russian who had returned from studying abroad, Adrian Berezutsky. Adrian Berezutsky, a piano student returning from Berklee Conservatory of Music. This is the fake identity that S.H.I.E.L.D. arranged for him. Generally speaking, when an agent performs a long-term latent task, it will hide its identity and create a fake identity in order to gain the trust of others and achieve the effect of getting close to the goal or entering the organization. For the sake of authenticity, it is not easy to be debunked. The identities of various professions will be assigned according to the various skills that the agent knows. For example, Leon, who learned piano in college, was granted the status of a graduate of such a famous music school. After all, if you want to act, act like a little. After getting off the plane, Leon carried a suitcase in each hand and a backpack on his back and walked out of the airport lobby. As soon as he came out, his whole body was invaded by the cool breeze caused by the rain, and he shivered suddenly. Roar! Seeing the heavy rain in front of him, Leon was a little helpless. Good luck. Shrinking his neck, he put down his suitcase, pulled up the zipper of his jacket, and walked to a black taxi near the door cursingly. After a few minutes of bargaining with the Russian bearded driver in pure Russian, Leon got in this somewhat inconspicuous taxi and drove to the hotel that had already been booked. Da-da-da. The rain drops like a fearless warrior, constantly hitting the windows of the car, and it also prevents Leon, who has first come to Moscow, without a chance to see the night scene of Moscow. Soon, in a small chat with the TB driver, the car came to its destination. Wash it, thank you. After bidding farewell to the uncle driver, Leon carried his 2 suitcases and walked into the hotel, translated as Aurora Star in Russian, under the umbrella of the doorman. Welcome home, here is your room key. Taking the key from the lobby manager, Leon thanked him and refused the help of the waiter with luggage. 20 minutes later. Put the baggage that couldn't be simpler in the room, and after searching the whole room with a detector, Leon did not find any surveillance tools, so he left the room with confidence. The rain outside seemed to be hard for him, and it kept going down, even getting bigger and bigger. Coming to the hotel lobby again, Leon took a black umbrella from the umbrella stand on the side and looked down at the time on his watch. It's almost time, it's time to come. As soon as the voice fell, with a very obvious brake sound, a black Mercedes-Benz car stopped at the door of the hotel. Looking at the car of unknown origin, the corner of Leon's mouth slowly rose. It's on time. Holding an umbrella, I came to the car door and knocked on the car window rhythmically. Leon found that the door of the back seat of the car had been opened with a click. Without hesitation, Leon got directly into the car. As soon as I got on the car immediately started the engine and set off again. In addition to Leon, 3 men in suits were sitting in the car. Leon agent. The first to speak out was a younger middle-aged man sitting in the back seat. From the slightly surprised eyes of the other party, it can be known that he was surprised and suspicious that the person sent by his superiors to perform confidential tasks turned out to be such a very young youth. It's me. With that said, Leon took out his S.H.I.E.L.D. agent certificate from the inner pocket of his jacket, opened it to the other party for verification, and asked, "How many of you are?" Seeing Leon's documents, the other party seemed to be relieved. "I am L's agent." "I'm the Meyer agent." I'm. The identity of the three persons is a latent agent of the Russian branch of SHIELD. From the accents of the three, you can hear that the three of them should have stayed in the Russian branch for a long time. Leon felt that he could not fly around aimlessly like a headless fly. If you want to grasp the information of the Red House as soon as possible and complete the task assigned to you by the one-eyed egg, you must first start with the local snake. This is also the reason why Leon, who had just settled down, immediately met with the intelligence personnel of the Russian branch of SHIELD. As one of the largest intelligence agencies in the world, S.H.I.E.L.D. must put intelligence first in everything. Intelligence represents knowing oneself and the enemy, represents a higher mission success rate, and represents everything. After driving for about 20 minutes in the car, Leon followed the three people to the outskirts of Moscow. S.H.I.E.L.D. arranged in one of the safe houses in Russia. Okay, next, let's start the intelligence report. Although Leon is only a level 4 agent, the level is lower than many agents present. However, due to the secret level of the mission, it reached level 7. Therefore, the agents present are very cooperative in reporting to him. Before coming to Russia, Leon had obtained a lot of information about the Red House from Hill. The Red House is not only a spy and assassin special education institution that specializes in adopting little girls and then using brainwashing and other inhuman methods to cultivate them into spies and killers, it is also a notorious intelligence agency. Behind these people, there is more or less the support of Russian officials. Therefore, in many cases, depending on the supporters behind it, different factions have differences and fight for power, which often happens in the Red House. Especially in recent months, this kind of internal struggle has intensified, and there have even been many assassinations. According to our investigations in the past 2 months, as well as information from informants, the reason why this internal struggle will escalate from the inside to a more fierce and more open confrontation is because of one person. A person? What do you mean? Leon asked curiously. Meyer agent continued to explain, in the Red House, there are 2 major factions. One is the Dovish led by General Andovik, and the other is funded by the Cabinet Security Minister Lunev. Hawks. The 2 subordinates have always had small frictions. However, just a month ago, the most powerful agent of Minister Lunev's faction, the famous Black Widow, sneaked into the residence of a high-level official under General Andreevich and killed him. This incident made General Andovik very angry, and directly issued a killing order to the officials of the Hawks, which also caused the 2 factions to directly enter a state of high vigilance confrontation. Leon touched his chin and continued to ask, so, is there any news about Black Widow? According to the latest information, the place where Black Widow last appeared was in Novosibirsk. Chapter 26. Advertise here. Novosibirsk. Hearing the news of Black Widow, Leon did not go to Novosibirsk immediately to find the legendary widow's sister. Instead, he stayed in Moscow and continued to collect information about the Red House. After all, the task he received from Fury was to investigate the infighting situation in the Red House. Have a close encounter with Black Widow. It is not the time yet. Maybe it's just the right time. Moscow in summer is not cold. Instead of flying snow all over the sky, it is the rainy summer. After staying in Moscow for a month, Leon learned about the latest situation of the internal fighting in the Red House through constantly intelligence collection and investigation. In the final analysis, the reason for the internal fighting is very simple: if it is not pleasing to the eye, send someone to assassinate you. 2 months ago, at an internal meeting, a high-level official of the Dovish confronted Minister Lunev, the boss of the Hawk head-on, which directly caused him to be furious. A few days later, the more he thought about it, the more angry Lunioff sent out his best assassin, Black Widow, to kill the opponent. And the dovish boss General Anduvik, who was killed, will naturally not stop there. Such an assassination is simply a provocation. Tigers don't show off. Do you think I'm Hello Kitty? As a result, General Andriovich, who was so angry that he lost his mind, began a counterattack and sent assassins to start assassinating the Hawks. This is the beginning of infighting. After the fermentation of the past 2 months, the infighting between the two sides has become more and more intense. There are more and more officials and agents in the dead body, and the situation is gradually out of the control of both parties. In this way, the top of the organization couldn't stand the two factions continuing to mess around, so they ordered the two bosses to solve this farce as soon as possible. With the intervention from above, the two major factions sat at the negotiating table. However, in this infighting, the doves who had the upper hand, put forward a somewhat unacceptable request: hand over the murderer Black Widow. Only in this way will they be willing to accept peace. In the final analysis, this kind of infighting is a scapegoat to take responsibility. Even if they were unwilling, the Hawks decided to hand over Black Widow in exchange for peace under strong pressure from above. However, what both parties did not expect was that Black Widow, who had fallen victim to internal fighting, received this amazing news through some channels. Knowing that he had been betrayed by the organization, Black Widow didn't catch his hands obediently. Instead, he lost his identity, residence, and communication, and dived into the darkness. From everyone's sight, disappeared. This is anxious for the Hawks. If Black Widow is not recovered, then this peace talk will be in vain. To make matters worse, if the dovish catches Black Widow first, then the entire Hawk may be swallowed by the dovish taking the opportunity to play. As a result, Black Widow, who was originally on the dovish hunt-down order, was also very honored to be Hawk himself and issued the hunt-down order. In other words, today's Black Widow is like a mouse crossing the street. Everyone shouts and beats. However, in Lion's view, Black Widow is the key to his mission. As a personal experience of the Red House, if you can find Black Widow, S.H.I.E.L.D, you can get a lot of important information from Black Widow if you can find the two major factions first. He felt that Black Widow, who was betrayed by the organization and was so indignant, should not mind revealing confidential information about the Red House to SHIELD. In this way, he can not only complete the task assigned to him by Fury, but also recognize the beautiful Widow's sister. Even taking the opportunity to recruit the homeless Black Widow into S.H.I.E.L.D is not impossible. That's the way it is said. However, it is not so easy to find the Black Widow, which is mysterious and hidden deeply. Leon feels that he still has to rely on the long-term work results of the local agent. S.H.I.E.L.D in the Russian branch, inside the safe house in Moscow. What information do you have about this Black Widow? Height, hair color, pupil color, measurements. No matter how subtle the clues are, they can help me find this assassin hidden in the dark. Upon hearing Leon's question, Meyer agent, the deputy director of S.H.I.E.L.D's Russian branch, also took out a top-secret document and handed it to Leon. Most of the intelligence we collect is useless. After all, it's a fascinating thing. The assassin. Everyone who has seen her has fallen into a pool of blood, with no survivors. We only know that Black Widow is a white female with an unknown age, about 5 feet 3 inches to 6 inches tall, and is characterized by red hair that is as red as blood. However, we believe that Black Widow has not left Russia. After all, people in the entire Red House have set up a large number of people at various entry and exit checkpoints at customs and airports. It is very difficult to leave the border and escape abroad by conventional means. Upon hearing Mayer's agent's very confident speech, Leon had a different view. I don't think she can't leave, but she doesn't want to. How to say? Leon put the papers in his hands on the table while asking, imagine if it was you, a trusted organization betrayed, and you are ready to hand over yourself as a scapegoat. Will you be willing to run away like this, becoming a situation where you are constantly chased and not dared to live with peace of mind? Mayer's agent frowned, and then looked at Leon in surprise, with a hesitation. You mean she might still be lurking in Russia, looking for a chance to fight back against the person who is chasing her? Maybe. Leon rubbed his temples and said solemnly, or maybe, she was just confused and didn't know what to do. I'm not her, I don't know what she is thinking. Maybe, when we find her, we will find out. Hearing Leon's words, the L's agent standing by was also a little surprised. Leon agent, aren't you going to find this Black Widow? Well, I have this idea. Leon nodded and explained, as an insider of the organization, the intelligence that Black Widow knows must be more valuable than the intelligence we have been constantly probing around the corner. If intelligence sources can be obtained from her, it will be very helpful for our various future operations in Russia. Regarding Leon's calmness, the L's agent was a little excited. That's what I said, but, you know, what you have to face is a female assassin who kills and never keeps alive. If we go to find her, let's not say whether we can find it. If we find it, we may not be able to catch her. After all, the other party is Black Widow. Feeling the concern between L's agent's words, Leon just smiled. I don't plan to let you go with me. I am enough. Chapter 27 The Opera House. Advertise here. Based on the comparison of various data from S.H.I.E.L.D. and the inference of cobweb horse trails, Leon has obtained 3 potential hiding spots where Black Widow may be found. They are Samara, Omsk, and Novosibirsk. Samara is one of Russia's most important transportation hubs. The route from Central and Eastern Europe to Siberia, Central Asia and Kazakhstan via Samara is the shortest, and it is also the easiest city to escape pursuit. Omsk, on the other hand, is the border city of Russia and the second largest city in the Siberian Federal District. If you want to leave Russia for the first time, this is a good choice. Finally, Novosibirsk is the third most populous city in Russia, second only to Moscow and St. Peter's Fort. If you want to hide yourself, the busy city is a great place. Moreover, here is the place where Black Widow last appeared. However, I was thinking about being alone, going to 3 hiding places, searching for Leon in Black Widow. In the end, it still failed. The same S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, even if he knows that Leon has very good skills and is also the famous strongest newcomer of S.H.I.E.L.D., the people in the Russian branch are still worried about letting him track Black Widow alone. Besides, searching by one person is too inefficient. Therefore, after sending 2 groups of agents to Samara and Omsk, Leon could only choose to go to the last location to find the notorious woman. Taking the latest flight, Leon soon arrived in Novosibirsk, Russia's third most populous city. Siberia means a place of peace. As the largest city in the entire Siberia region, Novosibirsk is not quiet, but very lively. The sky is gray, perhaps thanks to the many factories here. However, it still did not affect Novosibirsk, becoming one of the most popular tourist cities in Russia. Before coming to Novosibirsk, Leon was mentally prepared for nothing. Although this is the place where Black Widow last appeared. However, a month has passed since this information. Don't say that a month, a week, a few days, or even just a few hours is enough to change a lot of things. Perhaps, Black Widow has already left the city. In any case, this is the best way that Leon can think of. If there is no trace of Cobweb's horse in these three places, he can only return to New York with imperfect intelligence and report to Fury. That kind of ending is the last thing Leon wants and is the most unacceptable. So, next, he can only pray that Black Widow will not leave Russia, but will stay here. Using fluent Russian, Leon quickly settled down in a local hotel. When it landed in Novosibirsk, it was already sunset. When night fell, he had left the hotel room, wearing a thin windbreaker, and headed to the first place where Black Widow might appear, Yelena Ballet Classroom. According to information, female agents who train from the Red House will all learn ballet. On the one hand, it is to exercise the posture and create a beautiful body shape, on the other hand, it is to use the skill as a ballet dancer in the future to cover his identity as an agent. Therefore, Leon felt that it was necessary for him to search all the ballet classrooms and ballet companies in Novosibirsk. If you can find Black Widow, it's a worthwhile trip. However, after several hours of visits, he did not gain anything. Standing in front of the traffic lights on the street corner, watching the passing traffic, Leon sighed involuntarily, roar. The last one. Then, he bowed his head, crossed out the name of the last ballet classroom on the notes with a pen, and murmured, next is the Opera House. Leon checked the time on his watch, it's almost 10 o'clock, and the ballet rehearsal is almost over. At this moment, he suddenly stretched out his hands and slapped his cheeks, trying to cheer up. Come on, man, don't give up. After cheering himself up in his heart, Leon moved forward again to the next target location. This time, it is the famous Novosibirsk State Opera and Ballet Theater. In Russia, ballet is very popular. It can be said that Russian girls all like this noble dance. The ballet opera, which specializes in performing various classic repertoires, is also very popular in Russia. Naturally, public entertainment venues such as theaters are also all over Russia. There are many theaters in Russia, but the most famous one is the State Opera and Ballet Theater in Novosibirsk. As one of the three most famous opera theaters in Russia, the State Opera and Ballet Theater is not only one of the most beautiful landmarks in Novosibirsk, but also a gorgeous stage that many ballet dancers dream of wanting to board. Many well-known ballet companies rehearse and perform here. Therefore, Leon felt that he might be able to get a bit of news about Black Widow from these people. Thinking of this, Leon's pace has also accelerated a little. Crossing the last sidewalk of Krasny Avenue, he could vaguely see the outline of the Opera House. When he stood on the square in front of the Opera House and looked at the round building that was as gorgeous as the stars, the words of beauty in his heart turned into a sigh. What a nice view. Against the backdrop of the lights, the entire Opera House looks like a sacred place, which makes people feel awe-inspiring. Leon stood in front of the gate of the Opera House, imprinting the appearance of the whole Opera House deeply in his heart, then stepped on his long legs and stepped into the Opera House. Perhaps it was because there were no performances today, or there were quite a few spectators who came to watch the ballet rehearsal. The security staff did not embarrass Leon too much, but simply asked him a few words and let him enter the small theater. Leon's time is accurate. When he came to the small theater, the ballet troupe on the stage had not finished rehearsal, still dancing with the beautiful piano accompaniment. In the audience, they were still sitting on the floor, and many people came to watch the rehearsal. Leon, who was condescending, looked around and quickly got a panoramic view of the entire environment of the small theater. He slowed down and walked along the aisle, step by step towards the direction of the stage. Just as Leon was about to come to the first few rows of auditoriums, the sudden change occurred. A female audience sitting in a seat by the aisle suddenly got up, ready to turn and leave. It just so happened that Leon stood in front of her, blocking the other side's way. Boom! The two had no time to dodge and ran into each other head-on. Chapter 28 Natasha Romanoff. Advertise here. Oops. With a sound of surprise, Roar, the woman who was hit, stepped back slightly. The retreating steps are even more accidental, and I stepped on empty. Seeing the opponent's whole person fall backwards, Leon's muscles tightened, and he quickly stretched out his right hand to fish, and hugged the opponent's slender waist. Although the embarrassment of the woman falling backward was avoided, the coat she was carrying fell to the ground. However, at this moment, neither of them had time to pay attention to the coat that fell to the ground. With eyes facing each other, Lion's azure blue eyes met a pair of blue eyes that hide a deep mystery. From those eyes, Leon seemed to see inquiry, surprise, and a trace of confusion. Just when Leon was taken away for a moment by those eyes that seemed to be able to suck the soul away, a word from the woman recalled his reason. You can let me go. Oh. Under the reminder of the other party, Leon hurriedly released the hand that hugged the other party's waist. Very sorry, As he explained, he shifted his gaze from those green eyes to his face. Only now did Leon see the other side clearly. This look doesn't matter, it directly shocked his heart, and his pupils suddenly enlarged several times. A silky black curly hair adds a touch of tranquility to that charming face. The bright red lips, set off by the tall bridge of the nose, are more amorous. Everything in front of him shocked Leon's heart, and he couldn't help but roar, I can't find any place to break through my iron shoes. It takes no effort to get it. This coquettish woman standing in front of Leon, looks exactly the same as the widow's sister in his heart. From the Natasha Romanoff, favorable degree, frosty on the other's head, we can know that this black-haired beauty is the person he most wants to see and he has been looking for since this time. Black Widow Natasha Romanoff. Someone who was excited didn't notice, how rude to the other party's eyes that the appearance of staring at each other blankly. The woman wrinkled her eyebrows slightly, opened her red lips, and said again, it's okay. After finishing speaking, the woman leans back slightly, wanting to bend down, and pick up her coat on the ground. At this time, Leon, who had already determined the identity of the opponent in his heart, raised his eyebrows, bent down and picked up his coat at a faster speed than the opponent. Passing the coat to the other person, Leon then gave a charming smile, your coat. Thanks. The woman took the coat and thanked her, then turned and left. Seeing the woman's back, Leon stood still, but his mouth slowly drew an arc upwards. Fitz, your little toy, don't let me down. Just stepping out of the opera house, Natasha Romanoff, for some reason, suddenly turned his head and looked at the opera house behind him. That person. She felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't tell. Natasha Romanoff stood there, pondered for a moment, and finally shook his head, leaving the messy thoughts behind, and muttered, maybe I'm too worried. After that, she put on her coat and walked to her residence a few blocks away under the hazy moonlight. Just when Natasha Romanoff left the confines of the opera house, a tall figure slowly emerged from the shadow of the gate of the opera house. Roar was almost spotted. The vigilance is really high. It's better not to follow too close. Leon lowered his head and murmured a few words, then took out his BlackBerry phone from his trouser pocket and turned on the satellite positioning system. After a while of operation, a two-dimensional map appeared on the phone screen, as well as a sparkling red dot and a green dot. Seeing this scene, Leon also showed a relaxed smile. So now, see where you go next. 5 minutes ago. In the opera house, although the two people talked for a short time. However, when helping Natasha Romanoff pick up the coat, Leon still easily attached the miniature tracker he got from Leo Fitz to the other party's clothes. This is why, when he saw Natasha Romanoff leave the opera house, he did not do anything. Because he doesn't need to expose his intentions so quickly. With the tracker, he can find out where Natasha Romanoff lives, and after observing for a period of time, he can make contact again, and it is not too late. With this thought, Leon took the phone and followed Natasha Romanoff far behind. Perhaps it was unexpected that the man who met for the first time put the tracker on his coat, or perhaps his thoughts drifted away along the way. All in all, until he returned to his residence, the Black Widow Natasha Romanoff, who was being tracked, did not find that, 700 meters away, there was a pair of familiar eyes watching her closely. Watching Natasha Romanoff walk into a single-family apartment in Lyon, hidden in the shadows, he took off the miniature telescope on the bridge of his nose and muttered to himself, "So you live here. But why? It's much easier to find the place where the target is located." Leon did not immediately notify S.H.I.E.L.D. that Roar called for support. Instead, he rented an apartment a few blocks away from Natasha Romanoff's residence. He was very curious, why did Natasha Romanoff stay in Russia after being betrayed by the organization and did not flee immediately? He felt that observing in secret is always closer to the truth than asking people in person. For this reason, in the next 2 weeks, he did not deliberately approach Natasha Romanoff. Instead, he used the high-tech gadgets he brought from Fitz to monitor the other party's movements and try to find out the other party's life patterns. Put pieces of broken clues together. Observation in a short period of time, the gain is not much. As a very good spy, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff is not a vegetarian. Although I don't know that my house has been exposed or even monitored. However, she completely followed the caution hidden in her blood, and did not allow Leon to get too much valuable information. There is basically no contact with outsiders. No one has been to her residence. Even the phone in the house did not ring. What Leon recorded in his notebook were only sporadic habits in life, as well as routines of work and rest. For example, I like to drink a cup of hot milk before going to bed. Get up on time at 6 o'clock in the morning, go out for a morning run. Go to the opera house 3 times a week to watch rehearsals. Even Leon smiled wryly when he saw the contents of his notes, and couldn't help but vomit. What the hell am I doing? Why do you feel like a voyeur? Just as Leon was hesitation, should it be time to visit Natasha Romanoff in person, something unexpected happened to him. Chapter 29, Sudden Pursuit. Advertise here. It was Wednesday morning. At 6 o'clock in the morning, sunlight was projected through the window and reflected on Leon's face. Somewhat warm, he narrowed his eyes when he just got up, and couldn't help but stretch out a big lazy waist. It's another day. He first came to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of milk, and then took the glass to the living room window. After observing the movement of Natasha Romanoff's house with a telescope placed in front of the window, Leon looked up at the clock on the wall and said to himself, "Well, it's almost time to get up and run in the morning." However, before Natasha Romanoff, who wore sportswear and went out for a morning jog, Leon waited for a wave of unexpected guests. On the street in the early morning, there was a burst of rumbling sounds. 5 black SUVs drove from a distance and entered Leon's telescope. That is, Leon felt something was wrong subconsciously. It is often said that there must be a demon if something goes wrong, not to mention, judging from the posture of these SUVs, it is obvious that the person who came is not good. Leon didn't guess wrong. However, the target of several SUVs is not him, but someone else. The menacing black SUVs stopped in front of Natasha Romanoff's house under Leon's gaze. A group of bald men with a cold expression came down from the car, holding Uzi submachine guns, the weapon of killing. Oops. Seeing this scene, Leon also instantly understood the identity of these bald guys, the Red House. Without a trace of hesitation, he immediately turned around, ran to the bedroom, picked up a silver suitcase, and rushed out of the apartment. When he came downstairs, a continuous burst of gunfire, like the sound of dense rain, reached his ears. Leon raised his head abruptly and looked a few blocks away, his eyes full of anxiety. These people have a very clear purpose. What they want is not a living Black Widow, but a dead Black Widow. As soon as he thought of this, Leon was anxious, 3 steps in 2 steps, and directly jumped on the already prepared means of transportation, a black Ducati Sport 1000 Biposto. Put the suitcase in place, twist the accelerator, and the front of the motorcycle suddenly lifted up. Boom! The moment they landed again, Leon and the motorcycle incarnate turned into a black flash and galloped away. Fortunately, the house I rented was only a few blocks away from Natasha Romanoff's house, less than 1 kilometer away. Under the explosion of this behemoth with a displacement of nearly 1,000 cubic centimeters, only 10 seconds later, Leon saw the bald brawny men holding Uzi in the distance and pouring 9mm bullets into the house suddenly. Seeing the shattered and crumbling house destroyed by bullets, the brawny bald men stopped their continuous shooting. Judging from the tragic appearance of the house, no matter who it is, the people in it may have been overwhelming. However, just as Leon thought so, the scene changed again. Bang! A motorcycle broke out of the house with a sound. On the motorcycle, sat a vigorous figure. Seeing that familiar face, Leon, not far away, couldn't help but startled roar, "Natasha Romanoff!" Driving a motorcycle, Natasha Romanoff rushed out of the house, an emergency brake, the tire marked a black mark on the ground. In front of the brawny bald men, after a straight tail flick came, she took out a pistol from her waist, bang bang 2 shots, and directly killed the 2 people who were blocking her escape route. Immediately afterwards, he immediately twisted the throttle, and the whole motorcycle, like an arrow from the string, rushed out of the encircling circle from the gap. This series of actions only took place in just a few seconds, so that the killers in the Red House had no time to react, so Natasha Romanoff killed 2 people in a row and broke out. What else to watch? Get in the car to chase. The suspected little boss roared, so that the remaining killers woke up like a dream, opened the doors of the SUV one after another, and got into the car to catch up. After dropping the 2 corpses, several SUVs started their engines again and chased after Natasha Romanoff, who was going away. When Leon saw this, he didn't think too much, and drove the motorcycle again and followed. Although he felt that even if he didn't help, Natasha Romanoff might escape from these killers. However, Leon is more willing to do things and maximize foolproof. What's more, he couldn't just watch, and Black Widow, who had finally found it, fled like this. Or be killed. Natasha Romanoff drove a motorcycle, while sprinting at high speed, while dodging left and right on the road, avoiding bullets shot from behind. From time to time, he turned his head and fired a few shots, trying to slow down the speed of the chasing soldiers. A few black SUVs followed closely behind Natasha Romanoff and chased them. Several brawny bald men leaned out of the car window, holding guns and constantly shooting at Natasha Romanoff. Da-da-da. Wherever he went, gunfire broke out. Fortunately, it is not working hours, and there are relatively few vehicles and pedestrians on the main road. Otherwise, the unfortunate people hit by stray bullets along the way will be enough to fill a bus. All the way hurriedly, Natasha Romanoff led the chasers, and gradually moved away from the city, towards the suburbs. At this time, the killers in the red house also noticed Leon, who had been chasing behind them through the rearview mirror. With the idea of killing mistakes, don't let go, the gunmen on the two SUVs immediately turned their guns and poured angry bullets frantically towards Leon behind them. Shit. Leon saw the black muzzle aimed at him, he could not help but cursed in a low voice, and quickly launched the secret technique dodge left and right. Bang bang bang. The bullet hit the ground with a terrifying noise. Being passively beaten like this is not a solution. You have to find a way to fight back. Leon, who thought so, was annoyed in his heart. Why did he carry a suitcase instead of a gun in a hurry? If he had a gun in his hand, he would have killed these guys in twos or twos. However, at this moment, he suddenly remembered that a small toy he carried with him could also disintegrate this embarrassing situation. By the way, I still have that thing. I saw him holding the handle with his right hand, while continuing to control the motorcycle to speed forward. While extending his left hand, he took out a black round pie-shaped device from his trouser pocket. Ha! It's time to fight back. With a light press, the round cake device made a beep. After the device was activated, Leon threw his left hand violently and stuck the round cake on the bottom of one of the SUVs. Afterwards, Leon accelerated and drove his motorcycle, passing directly on the left side of the SUV. What made the other driver feel inexplicable was that at the moment of overtaking, Leon also smiled and said a word to him. However, before he could react from Leon's words, the sudden change occurred. Boom! Accompanied by an explosion of huge amounts of, the entire SUV seemed to be overturned by a big hand from the rear of the car, rolled over on the road for a few laps, and finally hit the guardrail on the side. It wasn't until the whole person and the car turned over in midair that the driver realized what the word Leon said just now, exactly. Farewell. Goodbye. Chapter 30 Death God is Coming. Advertise here. The chase is still going on. However, as Leon killed an SUV, the chaser shot Natasha Romanoff forward with fewer bullets. However, while easing the offensive against Black Widow Natasha Romanoff, it caused greater trouble for Leon himself. The remaining 4 SUVs are divided again. Except for the 2 SUVs in the front, the enemies on the other 2 SUVs all turned their targets to Leon, which was driving behind them. Da-da-da. The bullet storm is more violent than before. This also made Leon's avoidance more and more difficult. Yeah. Accompanied by a muffled snort, Leon's left arm was gently wiped by the bullet that flicked by, leaving a blood stain. The battlefield moved from the city to the suburbs. While preventing innocent people from being shot, the mobile bunkers vehicles for Leon to avoid bullet attacks were also reduced. The wound on the arm reminds Leon that if he does not solve the opponent as soon as possible, the next time he is hit, it is not just the limbs. If the enemy stops, he can use his secret weapon to solve the problem very quickly. However, it is a pity that they are driving at high speed. Moreover, there is still only one exit and one entrance, and underneath is the Ob River that runs through the entire Novosibirsk bridge. Just as Leon was thinking about how to stop the enemy in front, another accident happened to Natasha Romanoff. Accompanied by a shout, "I hit her!" Leon saw a heart-wrenching scene. Natasha Romanoff's motorcycle was hit on the back tire. The motorcycle running at high speed gave a sudden stop and instantly lost control. The sudden inertia brought Natasha Romanoff away. Black Widow fell to the ground severely, and after rolling a few laps, he lay motionless on the ground. At the moment, seeing the target finally hit, several SUVs slammed on the brakes. Seeing the enemy preparing to stop, he went up to fill Black Widow with a few shots. Leon's eyes were also bright, and his heart was dark. "Roar, the opportunity is here." With a squeeze of the handbrake, the black Ducati shook a beautiful tail, and at the same time it made a clear mark on the ground. He also stopped to continue running. He picked up the suitcase from the back of the car, put it on the ground, opened it with a click. Inside the suitcase is a foldable black recurve bow and a tube of arrows glowing sharply. This is his secret weapon. "Hi, baby, are you ready for a big battle?" He placed the quiver behind his back and picked up the bow. His right hand shook, and the whole bow was stretched up and down, quickly unfolding, forming a complete recurve bow. In just 10 seconds, Leon caught a wave of Hawkeye. However, with the skills he possesses, he can also be called the second Hawkeye. Watching the enemy park the SUV in the middle of the road as a cover, Leon felt that there was not much time left for him. If you don't do anything, Natasha Romanoff will get cold. Thinking of this, he slammed his right foot on the ground, like a jaguar attacking, and rushed to the scene of the incident. Looking at Leon, who was sprinting towards him at an extremely fast speed, several bald-headed men holding Uzi could not help showing fierce expressions and shouting, "Fire! Da-da-da!" For a time, a dense barrage swept towards Leon, which was running fast. However, long before the opponent pulled the trigger, Leon's sensitive nerve center ordered the developed muscles to make a countermeasure, a gorgeous slippery kneeling. While Leon avoided a lot of bullets, his left hand did not know when he drew an arrow from the quiver behind his back, and pulled the bowstring to a perfect full moon. Whoosh! With a loose hand, the arrow that left the string resembled a swift black lightning that instantly hit the enemy standing on the left side of the SUV. What? Immediately afterwards, Leon quickly turned around, knelt on one knee, and once again drew a sharp arrow from the quiver, draws, wins, and shoots. A set of movements is like having practiced thousands of days and nights. With a scream, another enemy hiding behind the door of the SUV was shot in the eye and immediately lost his breath. In just a few seconds, Leon killed 2 enemies who were blocking the way. 2, and 7 more. Thinking of the number of enemies in his heart, Leon's footsteps did not stop, and he accelerated, stepped on the SUV's cover with his right foot, and boarded the SUV's roof. Standing on a high place, Leon stood with a bow, swept the surroundings, and quickly locked the enemy's position. Draw arrows, wind up, let go. Before the enemy's bullet came, Leon once again solved an enemy closest to Natasha Romanoff. One turned sideways, Leon jumped off the roof and hid behind the SUV. There are 6 more. Originally, the killers sent by these red houses specially blocked the SUV in the middle of the road in order to serve as a cover and to block his way. Who knows, these bunkers, before they played their role, were first used by Leon. The bunker is still a cover, but it has become a cover for Leon. Using a few SUVs parked on the road, Leon fought a guerrilla war with the remaining enemies. The two extraordinary skills learned from Hawkeye Shen shooting and sensitive inducing, in this battle, they finally fully exerted their effects. After strengthening the senses, listening to the opponent's footsteps, and insight into the enemy's actions, Leon is always one step ahead of the enemy. His archery skills made him feel like a death god. A light hand loosened, and he took away a fresh life. At this moment, these assassins finally understood that what they were facing was not an opponent holding a bow and arrow, but a marksman who let go of his hands and feet for the first time, and showed his full play. Enemies fell under Leon's terrifying archery. During the battle, Leon did not forget to take a moment to glance at Black Widow, who was lying on the ground. Judging from the blood on her forehead and the appearance of her eyes closed and completely unresponsive, the situation is not optimistic. If the battle cannot be resolved as soon as possible and Natasha Romanoff is brought to a safe place for treatment, perhaps the famous Black Widow will disappear in history like this. Leon definitely can't let this happen. Risking the risk of being set on fire, Leon suddenly jumped out of the bunker, using his terrifying rate of fire, constantly drawing arrows from behind, suppressing the opponent. Finally, when the distance got closer, a sudden surprise attack, and he got close, breaking the necks of the last two enemies. After the battle, he came to Black Widow's side, and Leon took the unconscious Natasha Romanoff in both hands and left calmly. And the messy scene left only bullet shells and 9 corpses all over the floor.